Welcome to another episode of Dollar Store Cinema with your host, Thomas. This month's movie is Beckman, and it is David A.R. White's attempt at uh, him being an action star, and it was rough. It was around 90 minutes, but it felt long, which is never good. Um, so it's about Aaron Beckman, who is a hitman. Like he takes care of problems. Um, and even from the jump, like you see that they're trying to do something different with the cutting between time periods, and uh, it doesn't work. It really doesn't. So he starts off. You see him talking to this old dude. I don't even think we ever got the old dude's name. Uh, and he's talking about there's no way out of like what they're doing. You see somebody disposing of a body behind him, um, and then you see Aaron Beckman, played by David A.R. White of Jesus Man fame. He also helped found Pureflix Entertainment, which is who actually produced this film. Distributed by Universal, which is a big deal, but it is weirdly not rated. Um, that's stupid to me. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't get a rating, um, especially since you were distributing thing Universal, which is a big company. Anyways, before I continue, my friend Diamond will explain more about the rating system.
So, a movie being unrated or not rated just means that the producer didn't submit that version for the rating. So, there are like some director's cuts, things like that, that are unrated or not rated. The producer doesn't legally have to submit a movie to the MPAA. Movies don't have to legally be submitted to it, but most theaters will not show a film that is unrated, not rated, or NC-17. So you can exhibit it, it's just not going to be in a mainstream theater.
Um, he talks about his, I guess, partner or like a person that he was close to, Warner hates. Uh, he's quoted as saying he's the closest thing he has to the brother. Um, Warner's whole thing is like, yo, you need to get out, you need to be free. And they're part of they're part of the network, which is like a hitman syndicate. Throughout this movie, I really felt like David A.R. White was trying to be on his like Taken or like John Wick energy. And there's so many different uh, parallels, I'll say, but like with diminishing returns, obviously. Um, so we see this fight scene between him and Warner, and it's not good. Um, and I give him props for trying something different, because like a lot of the times the Pureflix films is either persecution porn with those guys not dead movies, or like his family badly green screened TV shows on his network. Um, but yeah, so they're trying to do this fight sequence, and like the editing, I feel like if the editing was sharper, then it wouldn't look as bad. But throughout this movie, I felt like time and time again, you could sort of see in the actors where they're like, all right, it's your turn. All right, it's your turn. All right, we gotta, and three. Like it felt very rehearsed, but not like it's seamless. More of just like they're trying not to hurt each other, which makes sense with like a lower budget. But like, I feel like investing in stuntmen would have definitely helped uh, this movie out. And honestly, like I get that this movie probably wouldn't have been made if David wasn't the lead actor, but like having another lead actor would have made this movie a lot better. they they had this one shot where Warner and Beck Beckman they shoot at each other. Like they both move out of the way and they shoot right next to their ears. And anybody who knows movies and just reality, like if you shoot by somebody's ears, your hearing is going to be affected. But they just kept fighting like nothing happened. That happens a couple times in the movies. Somebody gets shot in the stomach and he's walking like normal. uh, what else happens? So his man gets murdered and he's running away. Um, and he sees this church, so he runs into this church, and this pastor is praying. Um, and we don't get his name until way later, but his name is Reverend Phillips. And the Reverend is praying, talking about um, this medicine versus the church. And then later he's saying sooner or later it's going to be the medicine versus the house, which implies that like he has some disease and needs this very expensive medicine. And lo and behold, David R. White is at the doorstep. He comes in there with $250,000. He's like, yo, I just need some place to hide out, whoop-de-whoop, whatever, whatever. They start talking. And then you see this reverend who just was praying to God. And he just said, oh, this medicine is mad expensive. And then he says, I believe this was from you, God. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is going to answer his problem. He needed money, and the medicine's mad expensive. David R. White comes in with $250,000. This man burns the money. Like, you see him throwing money into the fireplace. I'm like, what's this nigga doing? Like, I couldn't believe it. And he didn't even really give, like, a good idea. Like, you just see a scene where David R. White's character is like, well, why'd you take me in if it wasn't for the money? And he's like, I had my reasons. And it just cuts to another scene. I'm like, nigga, what are you doing? Like, I don't care if it's blood money or not. Like, the scriptures say the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. I would have took that as a sign. Be like, ooh, thank you, God, for coming in the clutch. Instead of just burning money. Like, that don't make no sense. So anyways, because my nigga burnt up the money, you see that nigga on his deathbed. And then that nigga dies. I just kept thinking, I'm like, man, if this reverend, who I still feel like didn't have a good enough reason, if that nigga didn't just, I don't know, spend some of that money on medicine he clearly needed, that nigga still would have been alive. But I guess the movie wouldn't have happened like that or whatever. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, before he dies, Reverend Philip basically explains he was in the military and he caught like 11 bodies and he felt guilty about it. He was like, yeah, they gave me a medal for it, but like he felt like empty inside. And the nigga was like, I guess, asking God for forgiveness for taking these people's lives, which I think is a interesting change, especially for these so-called Christians that are very war-minded. But we don't really get any more of that because that nigga dies, and now you see Beckman have to become the preacher. It like literally, this is one of the many time jumps. This is 1 year later, and he's on this pulpit, and that nigga is pissed, and he's just talking about how God knows what you've done, and you could tell that the sermon's real weak because you see niggas leaving. And then there's he's sort of like at the end of his rope, right? And you see this black parishioner named Abigail. You don't get her name until like the very end of her arc. And she's trying to like talk him out of not leaving. And she's like, you're a good man and you're a good pastor. Meanwhile, we have no evidence that he's a good pastor. And then they do another time jump. It literally says another year later. And you see this girl show up at the doorstep, sort of similar to like Beckman's character. And she's looking for her uncle. And Beckman's like, yo, your uncle died like a year ago, fam. And you see she's in a bad way. It looks like she's clearly running from something and she might be on drugs. And he accepts her, jumps a year. He is now her father. Like it's it's shown that he's adopted her, and uh, she starts playing this song on a guitar, like after his sermon, and the sermon was much better. And he's in a suit now, so you know it's serious. um, I don't know. This movie just was it. It could have been better if there was like certain changes made. And I kept saying, I was like, man, David A.R. White, God bless him, but like he's not a good enough actor to pull this off. And I get trying to go outside of your comfort zone and expanding your palette or whatever, but like he's not an action star. He's not that dude. And even if he was, the character is also just a terrible hitman. So we see randomly Billy Baldwin shows up, who's Alec Baldwin's brother, and I think he's the only good like actor in this. You could tell he was in movies before, before like at Hollywood, and not just like I don't know passion plays or whatever, because he's acting circles around these niggas. He shows up with his goons, and he's like, "Hey." He talks real weird too. We find out later that this nigga's like a cult follower, and he's like, "Hey, my daughter, you need to come back. Uh, we're not done. You thought you'd get away from me, whoop de whoop, whatever, whatever." And David A.R. White is like, "Yo, leave them alone. They don't got nothing to do with this. Back up." And he has a gun pulled on him, like it's like aiming at his head, and he keeps trying to like lounge forward, and the nigga with the strap is doing nothing. He just keeps saying, "Back up. What are you gonna do, preacher man? Back up." And I'm thinking, okay, we about to get like our first real like scene where we're gonna see Beckman like really do work, steal the gun from him, have like a firefight or whatever. We don't get none of that. Beckman gets punked out. His girl gets kidnapped. His daughter Abigail gets kidnapped, and then they kill no his daughter's name not Abigail. What's her name? Her name is Tabitha. Abigail is an old black lady. They don't do a good job. Tabitha has to leave with the dude because Beckman doesn't do anything, and then they kill Abigail by like gun bunting her to her head. And I'm like, yo, Beckman literally just saw his his daughter get kidnapped and his only friend from that church get murdered, and he ain't do nothing. Another cutscene. This nigga, he say he coming back with a vengeance. He tracks down one of the goons, and he got like automatic weapons on deck. Knocks down the door with the strap, and is like, "Yo, where is he?" And it doesn't really matter what the goons' names are, but we get them like in spurts. And so the whole movie is basically him just trying to track down the person who kidnapped his daughter, which was Billy Baldwin. And so a lot of stuff happens where you see more bad fight sequences. You're introduced to these characters that don't really matter. There's a curly head kid. Like the way they set this up was not good at all. There was this curly head kid named Tom who was in the church service recording Tabitha playing the guitar, and apparently he worked at a restaurant where one of the goons worked, and he's trying to like get girl advice. Shows a video of the girl playing the guitar, and then that's how they figure out where she is. It's really stupid and not well written whatsoever. But yeah, this movie wasn't good. I feel bad, but like I'll say the soundtrack wasn't bad. I'll say that. I'll give props to that. You could tell like the actors were really trying. But yeah, you could just tell it was a lower budget movie, which isn't surprising me, but I thought they would like invest more money when you have your properties be like God's Not Dead, which the trilogy has made like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like I would want to have more competent audio mixing. I had to turn on the subtitles to like understand what some of these characters was even saying. And then like the lighting, it looked dark, and not like in a good way. Like it felt like it needed light in some scenes, which sort of took me out of the movie. But the soundtrack was good. I'll say that. Like whoever was doing the music for it, like it set the scene. It wasn't bad, but yeah, that's that's what I got. Also, next time, like invest money in like a good makeup artist. Like Tom was supposed to have like a bruise on his eye, like a nigga beat him up or whatever. And they kept talking about it, and I was like, "What are they talking?" Like it did. It looked more like the nigga was sunburnt than anything. Like you can't really see the bruise that's supposed to be there. Um, what else? It's sort of similar to like if you watch A Walk to Remember, Mandy Moore and Shane West's movie. Uh, there's a scene in the school play where Shane West's character um, like got shot, but you can't tell because it's just a red dot on his shirt. Like the director himself on the commentary was like, "Man, if I would have been able to do it over again, I would have made that uh, more visible." It's like that. Like it should have been way more recognizable that Tom got punched in his face. Um, what else? The effects for the movie weren't good. It the bullets discharging and the impacts on the walls when it wasn't hitting people. Uh, like technically they did it, but it looked amateurish. Um, there's a YouTube channel I used to follow um, in like the 2010s called Wong Fu Productions, and their gun work was amazing. Like these were teenagers, and even stuff because this movie came out in 2020. Even their stuff from like 2010s, even earlier than that, like looked amazing. So I would say again, spend some more money to like improve your stuff. Um, yeah, all in all, if you want a movie to laugh at, I say check it out. uh, I got it from the Dollar Tree, and it's 90 minutes. So, yep, I'm out.